Welcome to the crypto trading channel. My name is Stu. Well, guys, so far the bulls are still unable to break through the current 4-hour range I've been mentioning between my white lines here. But of course, you guys know also that more importantly, we need to actually break above 77K for any hopes of a real recovery. But one thing at a time, because the price action decided to form smaller ranges inside my main range. So there's still plenty of volatility and opportunity at our fingertips, especially if we want to start to really dissect this microstructure, which you guys know that I absolutely love to do. So like I said, just kind of this range I've been talking about the last couple streams is basically, well, as mentioned, I mean, 77K is more so the level that I'm interested in just because of how our structure is. That's our low, lower, low, confirmed lower high. So I'd really love to end up breaking that level to prove that the bulls actually have some momentum behind them to actually break some basically the downtrend structure, at least on the micro time frames for the 4-hour. I shouldn't really say micro time frames, but just the micro structure on the 4-hour, I suppose. But like I said, we've ended up actually forming a new smaller range inside that range just because of how things formed here, right? We had our high, we had a slightly higher high, confirmed higher low, and we broke that. What ended up happening, that confirmed this as a bearish pivot basically on the little trend that we had while trying to even get to that lower high resistance, but obviously getting shut down about $5,000 early. Not a great look for the bulls, in my opinion. But since that, we have also managed to confirm this as a bullish pivot, right? Because on that micro trend, after losing that uptrend, basically, here we had a low with a lower low, confirmed lower high, and we broke that also, right? So like I said, that actually confirms this as our bullish pivot, and that's how I came to basically point out this range between these white lines here. And guys, for those of you who are interested in just seeing way more examples of how I'm looking at market structure in general, some of my trade setups, strategies, warnings, and so on, be sure to scan the QR code to gain access to my private Telegram, which will also grant you free unlimited algo bot trading as well due to our exclusive partnership with Prime Automation. And to top it all off, you guys, Blowfin is also currently celebrating this partnership by giving this special promotion for new signups under us until February 20th. So if this amazing free deal interests you, be sure to scan the QR code on the screen there. But like I said, getting back into this 4-hour range here, notice, and I pointed this out yesterday, where we ended up getting rejected here shouldn't come as all too much of a surprise just because of this fib pull, right? Let's just go from basically pulling a fib, because as I mentioned, this is our bearish pivot. If we pull a bearish fib from there to where we currently have our bullish pivot, notice that we ended up stopping right at the 786. That's right where we got rejected so far. We've obviously hit the 0.5 fib. We have not hit the 214 fib yet. So that's still very possible. And what would actually line up well with that, obviously, would be the opposite 786, right? If we end up pulling the bullish fib to look for where we could end up finding support in this range, notice that the 214 line is basically just front running the bullish 786 in that kind of a scenario. So that's basically the little range there that I'm currently interested in. But like I said, even just really dissecting the structure for what it is, where did we, where do we get our confirmation that we actually saw a rejection here, other than just seeing that obviously that we just stopped going up, right? But look at the structure here also from where we started our little bullish run here. Notice what we did is this would have been our last high, higher high, confirmed higher low, right? The lowest point between the two, and we ended up losing that. Since losing that, we obviously set a new low. That would confirm this as a new bearish pivot on obviously an even smaller range inside that range, right? But since that, we've even set a lower low, highest point between the two up here. So basically what I'm getting at here is when we really start to dissect what's going on with Bitcoin here, even on the 4-hour, not even like really zooming out to the weekly or anything, just kind of looking at the midterm here, guys, is that no matter how you look at it, just Bitcoin has so much resistance up ahead, right? Just how the market structure continues to form and how we keep breaking our uptrends and respecting STUBER fib resistance pockets and all that sort of stuff, you guys. Just there's still a lot of red flags for Bitcoin for me. As much as I like to see that the weekly RSI is getting to those oversold conditions, yeah, it's absolutely possible that we end up seeing some relief eventually. But just really looking at the market structure for what it is, anytime we have any sort of bounce, like I said, we only got within about 5,000 US dollars of that lower high resistance at 77K. So for people celebrating that the bottom is in just because we've basically got a bounce and trading sideways, there's no actual structure on any mid to long-term time frame that confirms this as bullish price action to me. But obviously anything can happen, right? There is something, for example, on the lower time frames. Let's really zoom in here. And you guys, actually, before I talk about the current range that we're in, those of you guys in my Telegram will remember from this morning, came very close to absolutely nailing this short. It would have been absolutely perfect. But basically, I got front run very slightly. I had mentioned that basically taking a bearish fib pull from here, where we ended up basically, that was my bearish pivot at the time, to where the structure had dropped to. This is basically where we got our bullish pivot, right? And I was looking to ladder into a short position, basically starting just below my 786 and laddering into my resistance fibs. Unfortunately, we got stopped shy. I shouldn't say stopped. That makes it sound like I got stopped out, but just the price got stopped dead in its tracks about $100 before my first entry there. So unfortunately, never got that absolutely perfect short opportunity, but the structure was there. And you can just kind of see that that's exactly why I love that type of setup, right? Rather than FOMOing short into the breakout here after it's already moved that far, I was really looking for that pullback to those resistance levels for a retest. That would have been fantastic, but obviously the market had other plans. And from there, once again, let's really dissect what's going on here. This is just the 5 minute, but why do I have this as my range high? This is my range low, is basically this, just like I was looking at on the 4 hour. So this is where we got our little pause. We had a little high there and we had a higher high here, and we ended up losing the lowest point between the two. So that basically, at that point, when we got this, that confirmed this as my bearish pivot, or as I have outlined here, that is my range high at this point. And then recently what we've had is, so this level right here was actually my micro lower high on the trend, just for the immediate trend after getting that bearish pivot there, just because we had a low here and we obviously pushed lower. So we have a lower low that confirms this as my lower high on the trend, but we have broken it here, you guys. So that has actually confirmed this range low as just that, right? So that's why, once again, I have a new range outlined with my white lines here. So far, I mean, like I said, this is my basically micro lower high on this little down push here. And as I mentioned, we did end up breaking that. However, that doesn't mean we're going to go straight to the upside, right? It's very possible that we end up seeing a bit of a pullback, retest support. And then in that case, I would be interested in swinging at a bit of a long position. Just like right now, I have a bit of a short position because I was looking to do the same thing like I was talking about on that other setup, just basically laddering into a short setup here, just because, like I said, this is a valid STUBER fib. We have our low, lower low, confirmed lower high. So even though we broke above, we never really smashed through that 115 yet. So it is still high risk. I still think it's very possible that we come up and end up testing these resistance levels up here. But it's also possible that we see a push to the downside first just to retest support. So even if it's bullish, we may still end up getting that little pullback that would look something like this. So I would really like to see, as far as a bullish perspective, I would be more interested in, rather than looking to long this right now, although it is possible, right? The fact that Bitcoin did form this little consolidation here and pushed a little higher. So we could still be holding that uptrend that would push us up to these levels where I'm more so interested in shorting, but also looking to take that stab here just in case we get this push over But like I said, in that case, basically I am interested in pulling a bullish fib from our range low to wherever our price ends up going. Just like I am interested in pulling a bearish fib from our range high and looking for those resistance pockets, this purple box as well as that red box. So just a few levels that I'm looking for on the shorter time frames here. Just because, like I said, not a lot has actually changed since my yesterday's stream, especially on like the weekly, even the 4 hourly, really not much has changed. Just on the 5 minute that we had this little bit of a structure change by pushing a little bit lower. So yeah, that's basically the range that I'm looking at there currently on the immediate trend being the 5 minute. Guys, those of you guys who were in my stream yesterday may have caught this as well. I had mentioned this setup on hype for a long position. Very similar, right? Just another STUBER fib setup. But I had mentioned that basically we had a high here and we had a higher high here. Therefore, we had our confirmed higher low right about here, lowest point between the two. And I had mentioned that it was possible we end up pushing a little bit lower and coming and testing this box. And we absolutely ended up doing that. And we've already ended up hitting my first target, right? At this point, since it's an altcoin and since I'm treating this as a scalp, I already bumped my stop loss to break even because I hit my first take profit there. But I am still hoping to end up hitting my second target. That would just be front running my 214 fib a little bit there. You guys, those of you who do appreciate just my level-headed approach, just looking at market structure for what it is, right? Kind of, you guys know I don't go too deep into the fundamentals. I just like looking at chart structure for what it is, looking at some of my favorite indicators, some of my favorite trade strategies, and so on. So if you guys do appreciate that level-headed approach and just looking at it for, looking at the market structure for what it is as an actual trader rather than just, holding lottery tickets, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me just catch up on the chat. I see someone had a message. I got into an amazing Aster short, taking 50% off and letting the rest run in profit. That is absolutely beautiful. And that's exactly what it's all about, right? It's not so much when I end up taking trades, it's not so much that I'm hoping, I mean, don't get me wrong, I hope every trade turns into a home run position, but it's not realistic, right? So we got to make sure that we do take some profits along the way, but also giving those runners the ability to run rather than needing to do an all or nothing, take all my profits or let the whole position run. I'm a big fan of laddering into positions, just like laddering out of positions. So well done. That's such a nice position to be in. And that's why I always end up with so many positions on the run, right? Is because I generally treat my new positions as a scalp first. And when the risk is off the table, if it turns into a home run position, fantastic. If not, whatever, at least you pay yourself along the way. It's a very comfortable position to be over or to be in, because you guys know, I mean, these markets are absolutely insane. The volatility is insane. Emotions are absolutely through the roof in the crypto market. So being able to get into those positions with a nice level head and just letting things run, it's such a nice position to be into where you can just kind of take profits as you go. So well done. Love to hear it. Yeah, exactly. Just starting to understand that not every trade will be a home run, even though I always think it will be. And that's exactly it, right? And then eventually you start to understand that, actually it's quite rare that the trades are home runs. And that's exactly what I love about Fibonacci's, you guys. And just because when I pull Fibonacci's like this, just like this hype position here, is that I have my entries, I have my take profits, I have my invalidations, all those things are already there. And if this is the fib that I pull, that means these take profits, the reason they're there is because you're playing the range first, because generally speaking, the markets love to chop around sideways way more than they're just going in an absolute parabola, right? So often you see just the price chop around inside ranges. And that's what I love about Fibonacci's. It really helps you keep a systematic approach and just keeping a level head through all the nonsense and all the noise. So, well, I love to hear it. Love to hear that, that you're learning from some of these, the live streams through the Telegram, all that stuff. So love to hear it. Well done. What would a high ratio on retail long shorts be to be bearish? So that I actually don't have that. I don't even have that chart up right now. That's a bit of a loaded question because it's not so much that there is a number, because obviously, yeah, if if retail is 80% long, then you're just assuming that, hey, generally speaking, the majority of traders are on the wrong side of the trade, basically. But it's more so when those start to flip, right? It's when, like, let's say retail long short, when retail is very long heavy, eventually that's going to flip, right? So at some point, it actually becomes the opposite, where that will get bullish because retail longs will start backing off. And as they start backing off and building shorts, that's when you will start to see the price go to the upside. So it's more so reacting to how how retail is building the longs and the shorts. So there's a little bit more to it, I suppose. Hopefully that makes sense. Guys, taking a look at the S&P 500. This is one thing that caught my attention right before starting the stream and I mean, we've seen this many times on this trend because the S&P has been in such a strong uptrend for the last several months. I mean, just like gold and silver, right? Just in a absolutely beautiful uptrend. But we have seen this happen a few times, but I still want to take it serious when we see it. The fact that we did have this high and we set a slightly higher high, and this confirmed higher low, although it was just a wick, we did technically test below that level. And then since that, we did get a nasty rejection right from the STUBER fib there. And this is on the daily time frame. So if this ends up starting to set lower lows, we could end up starting a bit of a downtrend. So there's just something to watch out for there. But again, I mean, the trend on some of these other assets have just been so strong to the upside that I don't really want to bet against it too aggressively either. So, but absolutely something to pay attention to there, especially when we end up retesting resistance just like this, right? It's not so much that you want to be shorting into something like this, like a lot of people see. As soon as we break that support, it's time to short. Not necessarily, because we often get that bounce and that retest of resistance. That's where, when we see these warnings like this, we need to respect resistance at the very least, right? Gold, as it stands right now, very much so right in the middle of a very big range. So not a lot that I can say about that other than just the same kind of structure that I'm looking at on Bitcoin, right? The fact that we ended up losing this level confirmed this as my range high, just like breaking this confirmed lower high on the trend ends up confirming this as my bullish pivot, basically my range low. So that's kind of what I'm seeing on gold right now, right in the middle of a big range. Silver actually looks, it's got a little bit worse structure in my opinion. I mean, they could end up just moving together eventually again anyways, but just looking at the structure right now, notice we have our high, higher high, confirmed higher low. So that is basically when we lost this. That's where we ended this as our bearish pivot point. Just like, well, right now, actually, this isn't confirmed as a bullish pivot yet. It's just currently where our bottom is. But we haven't actually broke the downtrend, because here is where we have our low, lower low, confirmed lower high. So this yellow line is actually our more immediate resistance at this point. So if I pulled a fib like that, actually notice where we got rejected, right at the 786 there, you guys. So I mean, I don't really trade silver or gold or even stocks all that much, but I still look at market structure the same. And you can see this is just another typical bearish STUBER setup right there with the rejection. Obviously, the first target has happened already. Hell, we even made it halfway to the second target there. But yeah, just we don't really have a bullish pivot on the structure for silver quite yet. So something to consider there. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I really wanted to go over today. It was just a real quick live stream. Just wanted to kind of put those few additional levels on your radar, because like I said, it's more so just the shorter time frames where we started to break a little bit of structure and we had some new levels there. So just to put those areas on your radar, as I mean, maybe as trade setups, but also just paying attention to those levels as levels to be cautious around. So yeah, if you guys do appreciate these market updates, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And just a reminder for those of you who are interested in joining my private Telegram, as well as wanting free access to unlimited algo bot trading through Prime Automation, plus this special promo from my partners at Blowfin for new signups until February 20th. Do yourselves a favor, get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description down below. And with that, I think that's about all. Thank you so much for being here with me once again, my friends. We'll do it again tomorrow. With that, stay safe, my friends. Peace.